TV soap news and spoilers say that Haley and Leslie's sinister scheme in the sultry, shadow-draped town of Crestwood, where secrets fester like weeds in an untended garden, two women found themselves drawn together by fate, ambition, and a shared hunger for retribution. Haley Monroe and Leslie Carter, each a storm of charisma and cunning, were about to collide in a way that would send tremors through the gilded halls of the Dupree family, Crestwood's untouchable dynasty. Their meeting wasn't planned, nor was it a mere coincidence. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to weave their destinies into a tapestry of deception and revenge. This is the story of their audacious plan, a scheme so bold it could either topple an empire or consume them both in its flames. Welcome to Beyond the Gates, where alliances are forged in whispers and betrayal lurks in every smile. The Crestwood Diner, a relic of neon and nostalgia, sat on the edge of town like a sentinel guarding secrets. Its flickering sign cast a crimson glow over the cracked asphalt parking lot, where pickup trucks and rusted sedans huddled under the weight of a humid summer night. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of frying bacon and burnt coffee, the kind of place where dreams went to simmer and schemes were born over greasy tabletops. It was here, on a fateful Tuesday evening, that Haley Monroe and Leslie Carter found themselves seated across from each other in a vinyl booth, their eyes glinting with the promise of something dangerous. Haley, with her cascade of auburn hair and a smile that could charm a snake, leaned back in the booth, her fingers tracing the rim of a chipped coffee mug. She was no stranger to Crestwood's underbelly, having clawed her way out of a childhood marked by poverty and neglect. Her beauty was a weapon, honed over years of navigating the town's elite circles, where she played the role of the alluring outsider. But beneath her polished exterior burned a grudge against the Duprees, the family that had once humiliated her father, driving him to ruin and an early grave. The memory of that injustice was a splinter in her heart, festering with every passing year. Leslie, on the other hand, was a different kind of predator. Her sharp cheekbones and piercing green eyes gave her the look of a hawk, always watching, always calculating. A former confidant of the Dupree matriarch, Evelyn, Leslie had been cast out after a scandal involving leaked business secrets she swore she hadn't betrayed. The Duprees had ruined her reputation, leaving her to scrape by as a freelance consultant, her once lavish lifestyle reduced to a one-bedroom apartment and a simmering rage. Leslie's intellect was her blade, and she wielded it with precision, waiting for the moment to strike back. "So, my friend," Leslie said, her voice low and laced with intrigue, "how are we going to help each other?" She leaned forward, her elbows resting on the table, her gaze locking onto Haley's with an intensity that could ignite the air between them. Haley's lips curled into a smile, slow and deliberate, like a cat stretching in the sun. "Oh, Leslie," she purred, "I think we're going to do more than help each other. We're going to make the Duprees wish they'd never crossed us." The diner's jukebox kicked to life, spilling a mournful country ballad into the air, as if underscoring the gravity of their pact. In that moment, two women who had never intended to cross paths became allies, bound by a shared desire to dismantle the Dupree empire brick by gilded brick. To understand the fire that fueled Haley and Leslie's scheme, one must first understand the Duprees. The family was Crestwood's beating heart, their wealth and influence woven into every facet of the town's existence. Their sprawling estate, Crestwood Manor, loomed on the hill like a castle, its iron gates a symbol of their untouchability. Led by Evelyn Dupree, a formidable woman whose elegance masked a ruthless streak, the family controlled the town's lumber industry, real estate, and even its political machine. Their name was synonymous with power, but also with arrogance, a dynasty that believed itself above reproach. Haley's grudge traced back to her father, a small-time contractor who had dared to bid against the Duprees for a lucrative development project. The family had crushed him, not through fair competition, but with whispered threats and doctored documents that painted him as a fraud. The scandal had cost him everything: his business, his dignity, and eventually his life. Haley, then a teenager, had watched her father unravel, his pride stripped away until he was a shadow of the man who once dreamed of building a legacy. She had vowed, even then, to make the Duprees pay. Leslie's story was no less personal. As Evelyn's trusted advisor, she had been privy to the family's inner workings, from their shady business deals to their carefully curated public image. When a rival company gained the upper hand in a major contract, Evelyn had pinned the blame on Leslie, accusing her of leaking sensitive information. The accusation was a lie, but it didn't matter. The Dupree's word was law in Crestwood. Leslie was ostracized, her career in tatters, her name dragged through the mud. The betrayal had left her with a cold, unyielding resolve to expose the family's hypocrisy. As the diner's clock ticked past midnight, Haley and Leslie's conversation grew more animated, their voices a hushed symphony of conspiracy. They weren't just venting their grievances, they were laying the groundwork for a plan that would shake Crestwood to its core. The Dupree's empire was vast, but it wasn't invincible. Every dynasty had its cracks, and these two women were determined to find them. Haley proposed targeting the Dupree's latest venture, a multi-million-dollar resort project that promised to transform Crestwood into a tourist haven. The project was Evelyn's pet, a legacy she hoped would cement the family's name for generations. But it was also a house of cards, built on questionable land deals and shaky financing. Haley, with her connections in the town's real estate circles, had heard whispers of forged permits and bribed officials. If those secrets could be exposed, the project would collapse, and with it, the Dupree's reputation. Leslie, ever the strategist, saw an opportunity to go deeper. She suggested infiltrating the family's inner circle, using their own arrogance against them. The Dupree's were hosting a gala at Crestwood Manor in a week's time, a lavish event meant to woo investors for the resort. It was the perfect stage for their scheme. Leslie, with her knowledge of the family's habits and weaknesses, could pose as a potential investor, gaining access to their private records. Haley, with her charm and knack for blending into high society, could work the room, gathering intel from loose-lipped guests. Their plan was audacious, but it was also fraught with risk. The Dupree's were not fools, they had eyes everywhere, from loyal staff to paid informants. One misstep could expose Haley and Leslie, leaving them vulnerable to the family's wrath. But the thrill of the challenge only fueled their determination. They were two women scorned, and their rage was a force of nature. As the night wore on, the diner emptied out, leaving Haley and Leslie alone with their plotting. The waitress, a weary woman named Dot who had seen too many late-night confessions, refilled their coffee without a word. The jukebox had fallen silent, and the only sound was the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. It was in this quiet, conspiratorial atmosphere that Haley and Leslie sealed their pact. "We need to be smart," Leslie said, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. "The Dupree's have destroyed too many lives to be taken down by anything less than perfection. We get the evidence, we leak it to the right people, and we watch their empire burn." Haley nodded, her eyes gleaming with a mix of anticipation and malice. "And when it's over, they'll know it was us. I want them to see our faces in the wreckage." Their plan was still in its infancy, but its bones were strong. They would spend the next week preparing, Haley gathering dirt on the resort's shady dealings, Leslie crafting a persona that could fool even Evelyn's sharp instincts. They would need aliases, forged documents, and a network of allies willing to risk the Dupree's ire. It was a tall order, but both women thrived on the impossible. The night of the gala arrived like a storm rolling over Crestwood. Crestwood Manor was ablaze with light, its chandeliers casting a golden glow over the manicured gardens and marble floors. The town's elite mingled with out-of-state investors, their laughter and clinking glasses a facade of civility. Haley, dressed in a sleek emerald gown that hugged her curves, moved through the crowd like a siren, her smile disarming even the most guarded guests. Leslie, under the alias of Claudia Vance, a wealthy widow with an interest in luxury resorts, was equally convincing, her tailored suit and practiced poise making her indistinguishable from the elite. As the night unfolded, the two women worked in tandem, their movements choreographed with the precision of a heist. Haley flirted with a tipsy councilman, coaxing out details about the resort's permits. Leslie, meanwhile, slipped into the manor's study, where Evelyn kept her most sensitive files. The room was locked, but Leslie had come prepared. A hairpin and a steady hand were all she needed to bypass the antique lock. Inside, she found what she was looking for, a ledger detailing payments to local officials, each one a nail in the Dupree's coffin. But the night wasn't without its close calls. Evelyn, ever vigilant, noticed Claudia lingering near the study and approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Enjoying the evening, Miss Vance?" she asked, her tone dripping with suspicion. Leslie didn't flinch. "Immensely," she replied, raising her champagne flute. "Your home is as impressive as your vision for Crestwood." Evelyn's gaze lingered, but a distraction from a fawning guest pulled her away. Leslie exhaled, her heart pounding. The stakes were higher than ever, but the thrill of outwitting Evelyn was intoxicating. As the gala drew to a close, Haley and Leslie reconvened in the shadows of the manor's rose garden, their faces alight with the rush of their success. They had the evidence they needed, documents that could unravel the Dupree's resort project and expose their corruption to the world. But their work was far from over. The next step was to leak the information to the press, a move that would require careful timing and an ironclad plan to protect their identities. The risks were immense. The Duprees had a long reach, and their wrath could be merciless. Haley and Leslie knew they were playing with fire, but the thought of backing down was unthinkable. They were no longer just victims of the Duprees' cruelty, they were avengers, poised to rewrite Crestwood's history. As they parted ways under the moonlit sky, Haley's voice was a whisper of determination. "Next week, we make our move. The Duprees won't know what hit them." Leslie nodded, her eyes blazing with resolve. "And when they fall, we'll be there to watch." Their scheme was a tightrope walk over a chasm of danger, but Haley and Leslie were ready. In the world of Beyond the Gates, where power is a game and loyalty a lie, these two women were rewriting the rules. Would their plan succeed, toppling the Dupree dynasty and cementing their names as legends? Or would their ambition lead to their downfall, consumed by the very fire they sought to wield? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain, Crestwood would never be the same. Haley and Leslie's story is just beginning, and the trouble they'll bring will echo far beyond the iron gates of Crestwood Manor. We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to CBS Beyond.